Local Justice, presented by Elrod Law Firm, serving our community since 1980. Here's your host, attorney Ben Leader.
Welcome to Local Justice. I'm Ben Leader, and today we're honored to be here with Lieutenant Nathan Clark of the York County Sheriff's Office. Over the past 20 years, Lieutenant Clark has dedicated his career to keeping our communities safe. This ranges from serving as a school resource officer, protecting our children, to leading the law enforcement unit on Lake Wylie. His story is one of service, resilience, leadership, and grit. And so again, thank you for joining us, Lieutenant Clark. It's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
All right, well, we're going to dive right in. You've been with the York County Sheriff's Office for about 20 years now, is that right?
Just over 20 years, 20 and a half.
That's great. Well, tell me a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, and what ultimately led you towards law enforcement.
So I grew up in a little town in Greenville, South Carolina called Travelers Rest.
Oh, yeah.
Grew up there, went to high school, came to Rock Hill, and after graduation to go to Winthrop. Made it there a couple years, decided wasn't the right time for me, so I got out of it. Ended up going back and finishing an associate's degree at USC, Lancaster, and then got hired on with the Sheriff's Office in January of '05.
All right. And over the course of those 2 decades, I guess you've seen probably a lot of growth within the Sheriff's Office in and of itself.
Oh, absolutely. So, like everybody, I started on patrol. I was on patrol. I worked almost all the areas within York County for a period of time. I spent a lot of my time in Rock Hill, working from everywhere from the Catawba River Bridge all the way out down to the Chester County line, out to the Lancaster County line. So I did that in 2014. I was promoted to a patrol sergeant, and then did that for 5 years. Worked the Fort Mill area, so everything north of the bridge and up to the state line.
So you know the York County roads about as well as anybody, I think.
Yeah, I definitely have checked many of the boxes on the maps.
Well, and I know in your current role, you're involved with both the School Resource Officer program as well as the Lake Enforcement Unit. Tell us a little bit about how you kind of balance both of those hats, and I guess there's no off season for you. You're either ramping up in school or ramping up on the lake. Yeah,
so in 2022, I got promoted to lieutenant, administrative lieutenant over our support services unit, which encompasses the school resource officers and the lake enforcement unit. I have a couple supervisors that do a really good job. We have 20 schools that we cover. We have 20 SROs that cover the 20 schools within the county. Getting ready to build, or in the process of building, 3 additional schools now. So, this time next year I'll have 3 additional school resource officers. So it'll be up to 23. They do a really good job. The guys at the school, love what they do and love being there. So that keeps me busy 9 months out of the year, almost 10 months out of the year with the schools. And then in the summertime, a lot of those same resource officers, when they're out of the schools, they come out and work the lake and, get on the boats, work the weekends, and try to keep people safe out there.
Absolutely. And I think the role of a school resource officer has changed so much since I was in school. And I'm sure that requires a lot of ongoing, pivoting and adapting and being able to kind of keep up with the pressing issues in today's world. In terms of safety, is that kind of the foremost, duty that you see the school resource officers provide?
So definitely the safety aspect of it, keeping the students safe, keeping the faculty safe, but it's also about building relationships, right? Building trust with the students and with the staff. Having the students trust that they can come to you and ask for help if they need it, or they can come to you if they have a problem, or if they see something and want to report something. It's having that trust so that they know where they can go and they don't feel like they're getting somebody in trouble.
Absolutely, and I noticed, at least it looks like is within the last week or so, y'all been hitting the ground running, boots on the ground, doing some active shooter type training at some of the schools here in Rock Hill. Is that right?
Yeah. So our school resource officers, we take a week of the summer and do our week-long training for our entire year, we do it in a week. And part of that is our active shooter training. The department does it at a different time. They'll actually be doing it next week. But the school resource officers, we did it as separate individual unit. And usually in the past several years, we've been doing that at Finley Road Elementary. It closed down several years ago, but Rock Hill School District is kind enough to keep it up and operational, so that it gives us somewhere to train, somewhere very realistic to what we have to deal with on a daily basis.
That makes sense. And you know, you mentioned trust earlier, and it's interesting to me. You know, I think it's such a critical component of police work that often goes unnoticed or unmentioned by the community. But you know, your resource officers have to get involved in these schools and build trust, just like an officer on the beat does, you know, in a neighborhood, in order for those students to really buy into the process too, and to be trusting of them.
Yeah, so you know, we do a lot of the drills, participate in a lot of the drills that the schools do every semester. I have several of the SROs, my SROs that do programs in the school that teach blocks to different students. They do, some of them do mock trial scenarios with students just to try to give them a feel and an understanding of what our side of the world is like, right? Our side of life, and to not just be police officers.
Sure, and that results in them being approachable and you know, actually building relationships versus somebody just maybe coming to y'all when there's a need.
Right. It's very warming. Yeah, I go from school to school a lot, and you know, talk to the different SROs and talk to the admin, and you know, try to be present and watch and see, and you know, I'm still learning too, and just see the connection that my SROs have with the students. And the students will come up and give them high fives. They'll give them hugs. They'll have one of my SROs will actually go to class with students. Whoever's the first one to ask him today, he'll go to class with them and, you know, sit beside them and learn just like they're learning. So have a wide range of personalities as that are school resource officers, but it takes a lot of personality to deal with the students too. So.
Absolutely. Well, they play such a critical role in our schools, and I still remember Officer Ayton was my resource officer, you know, some 25, 30 plus years ago, and so I still remember him well, and remember the impact he had just by having a presence there. And so I want to dive a lot more into the lake side of things here shortly. We're going to take a quick moment to hear from our sponsors, and we'll be right back with more local justice with Lieutenant Clark here shortly. Thanks for tuning in.
As soon as I contacted Elrod Pope, they handled everything. Without Elrod Pope's help, I'd have been paying hospital bills for years to come. Elrod Pope just took the stress and they put it on their table and took it off mine.
Coming to Elrod Pope, I didn't have to worry about anything. Everything was taken care of. It put me in a real calm state because I had someone on my side. I knew that I was in the right hands. It felt great.
We know the type. You like to start early, finish late, make lemon squares, and make payments to the college fund from anywhere in the house. We know you rely on Comporium for the things you rely on most, like a view of the backyard. That's just a bunny, and hundreds of channels to watch, whenever you want. So you may think of us as just your internet company, but we're more like the I didn't know they could do all that company. Comporium, always ready.
Coke Zero is now Coke Zero Sugar, with great Coke taste. Some people were excited to hear the news, some were skeptical. So we're not gonna have the star of the show you're watching come out and say, "You'll love it." No special jingle written by this week's hottest pop star. No famous internet celebs who happen to be holding the label just so. Okay, maybe just one little pour shot. The only thing that will make you believe Coke Zero Sugar has great Coke taste is trying it yourself. Ice cold Coke Zero Sugar. Try one today.
Being there for someone in their time of need is what Green Funeral Home has done compassionately for 4 generations. It's a privilege we take very seriously.
We believe each life should be honored and remembered by family and friends. Whether you choose traditional burial in our chapel or another venue, or cremation provided by our on-site crematory, we will help guide you through each step to ensure your needs are met.
We are also available to discuss pre-planning. Peace of mind that you have helped your loved one by making those difficult decisions.
When the need arises, our family is here for your family.
At Founders, we know your finances matter. That's why we have loans for any reason.
Can Founders help us with our mortgage?
Of course.
Can Founders get me an
auto loan? Not a problem.
Nice.
Can we do something about this?
Home improvements? Absolutely.
How about just getting ahead?
Pay down some bills? We can do that. When you need a loan, our great low rates give you the opportunity to invest in the most important thing, you. So relax. At Founders, we're with you every step of the way.
Welcome back to Local Justice. I'm your host, Ben Leader with Elrod Pope Law Firm, and today I'm honored to be here with Lieutenant Nathan Clark of the York County Sheriff's Office. Lieutenant Clark, thanks again for joining us today.
Absolutely.
Want to talk about kind of the other side of your duties. I know we dove into school resource officer and managing 20-plus officers, about to be 23 next year, I think. Let's talk about the lake. Obviously, we're in the heat of summer right now, and I'm sure the lake has been busy. Tell us kind of from a day-to-day standpoint, you know, what role does the York County Sheriff's Office have on the lake, and what type of presence do y'all have?
So, you know, the lake is very weather dependent, obviously. You know, not a lot of people are on the water when it's cold or when it's raining. So our roles vary depending on that. Obviously the weekends are the busiest time and holidays are the busiest times. But a lot of my school resource officers work over the summer months. Once they get out of school, they'll come out and work on the water. You know, our roles vary from, you know, just a patrol, just a presence on the water to ensure people's safety, to enforcement of the wildlife code, the boater safety stuff, the equipment violations, wake zone violations, things of that nature.
I gotcha. If I had to guess, my guess would be there's probably never a dull moment on the lake, especially around a holiday weekend in the summer.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely can get sporty out there.
And, you know, being a personal injury lawyer, I don't handle criminal defense cases, but a lot of people ask me questions. You know, they think a lawyer can help with anything, even though it's not something we handle. But there seems to be a lot of misconceptions out there about BUIs, and the fact that somebody can get a BUI while operating a boat. You know, it seems like common sense to me, but I guess there's part of the community that doesn't understand that, you know, the rules of a car also apply, you know, to a boat, and you can't ride around intoxicated. Do y'all see a lot of intoxicated boating?
We see our fair share of it. Obviously, we don't make the BUI cases aren't as prevalent as DUI cases, just because of the amount of traffic on the water, right? Mm-hmm. It's just, compared to traffic on the road, I think I saw something the other day that 12% of the population on boats, right? So compared that to probably 90% of the population on cars. So it's a lot smaller population. So we don't get as many BUIs as we do DUIs, but we do get our fair share.
And it's an interesting dynamic, because typically there's going to be a driver, but a lot of beverages on a boat that other passengers may be consuming, whereas in a car, you know, the open containers are illegal for anybody, but on a boat, there seems to be a lot more, you know, culture around drinking on the water.
Drinking on the boat, yeah. So in South Carolina, and I can only speak for South Carolina, obviously Lake Wiley's split about 50-50 between us and North Carolina, so I can only speak on our laws. But you know, it's not illegal to have an open container or be drinking on a watercraft or on a vessel. It's not even illegal for the driver to be consuming alcohol while operating a vessel on the water. It's only illegal for the driver or the operator of the vessel to be intoxicated to the point where his faculties to operate are impaired, just like it is with a car, right?
Sure. And another kind of misconception I hear out there is, you know, being pulled over. You know, a lot of people think about automobiles and needing probable cause or warrants, but when you're on the water, that works a little differently, I think.
So it used to. So about 5 years ago, maybe a little bit longer now. Prior to that, you could stop vessels under the Coast Guard regulation to stop for a safety inspection. South Carolina changed their law some 5-8 years ago to where it's more along the lines of automobile, where you don't have to have probable cause, but you have to have reasonable suspicion that a crime has been or is being committed to be able to make that stop on a vessel.
Gotcha. And so y'all's jurisdiction, basically from Buster Boy Bridge down south, y'all handle kind of everything that may arise south of the state line there in North Carolina?
So the state line actually runs vertically down the lake. So all the way from the North Carolina sandbar where it splits there, the west side of the lake is South Carolina all the way down to TGK. And then from TGK south, it's all South Carolina.
That's great. Well, like I said, there's never a dull moment on the water, and I know you're probably looking forward to getting back in the schools and things winding down a little bit here over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, so the school resource officers have all gone back to school, so we still got some guys working the waterways, so make sure people are out there being safe. They'll be out there through Labor Day, making sure people are abiding by the rules and regulations and making sure people are remaining safe.
Well, you're a busy man. You got a lot on your plate between the schools and the lake, and we appreciate everything you do to keep our community safe on both fronts. You've also got a really interesting story yourself and your personal background that I want to dive into here in our last segment. So we're going to take a quick break from our sponsors again, and we'll be right back with Lieutenant Clark and more local justice here shortly.
As soon as I contacted Elrod Pope, they handled everything. Without Elrod Pope's help, I'd have been paying hospital bills for years to come. Elrod Pope just took the stress and they put it on their table and took it off mine.
Coming to Elrod Pope, I didn't have to worry about anything. Everything was taken care of. It put me in a real calm state because I had someone on my side. I knew that I was in the right hands. It felt great.
At Palmetto Pride, we know we have a choice. The choice for a cleaner South Carolina. And it's an easy one at that. Don't litter. No grand gestures or heroic efforts here, but the outcome still has monumental impacts. When it comes to our state, every choice counts and every action matters. From the great outdoors to parks next door, from Main Street to your street. All it takes is a little bit of pride to keep South Carolina beautiful.
When a catastrophe hits, it can be a very stressful time for you. When you have trees on your house, when you have trees on your cars, and you don't know what to do, you call us.
We're not a 1-800 number, we're an 803 number. We've been in business for over 60 years because we take care of our clients. That means taking care of them during claim situations.
We're not 9 to 5, we're 24/7. We're gonna be there when you need us most. Gill Insurance, your local auto owner's agent. Understanding business is how we do business.
When it comes to prescription medications and health needs, Rock Hill residents have been turning to Good Pharmacy for over 50 years.
I've been coming to Good Pharmacy since we came to Rock Hill in 1984, and I would not change pharmacists for anything.
With their knowledgeable staff, you can always trust that your prescription will be filled with complete confidence and care for your health. Good Pharmacy, conveniently located at the corner of Ebenezer Road and Camden Avenue.
At Founders, we know your finances matter. That's why we have loans for any reason.
Can Founders help us with our mortgage?
Of course.
Can Founders get me an
auto loan? Not a problem.
Nice.
Can we do something about this?
Home improvements? Absolutely.
How about just getting ahead?
Pay down some bills? We can do that. When you need a loan, our great low rates give you the opportunity to invest in the most important thing, you. So relax. At Founders, we're with you every step of the way.
Welcome back to Local Justice, where we dive into the issues and the people impacting justice here locally in York County and beyond. I'm Ben Leader, and today I'm honored to be here with Lieutenant Nathan Clark. When I think about the term local justice, few situations ring truer in terms of the sacrifice that's made for justice than what Lieutenant Clark's been through. And I just wanted to briefly touch on that and touch on what happened back in 2020 when a foot chase ultimately changed your life forever. Can you just briefly walk us through what happened that day and the injuries you sustained?
Yeah, so I'll give you a little bit of background. So I told you I was promoted patrol sergeant in 2014. Well, in 2019, I moved from our patrol unit to what was then our special operations group. And I ran a group of guys that our job was to go after the worst of the worst, right? To get the guys that didn't want to be found, the guys that were really causing the problems in the neighborhoods and in the community. That was our job, right? We wore plain clothes, we drove unmarked cars, just really beating the bushes and putting people in jail. And so June of 2020, right, kind of in the heart of, right after COVID-19 started, we were doing surveillance on a house looking for a guy that had warrants. Determined he was in the house, kind of surrounded the house and trying to call him out, waiting on more guys to show up, and he decided to take off running. So I gave chase across the front yard. We went across the road and down into a ditch, and my foot chase ended there. I ended up breaking my left leg pretty severely. I had to be pulled out of the ditch by the fire and EMS that afternoon. And
I think ultimately 8 surgeries later, is that right?
So I had 8 surgeries over 18 months. I had a compound tib fib break. Required both external and internal fixation. Had some other complications, some infections, complications, but 8 surgeries in 18 months. And after the 8th one did not work, number 9 was, we decided to amputate my left leg below the knee, February 22nd, 2022. So almost a full year and a half, a little over a year and a half after my initial break. We made that decision with my doctor that it was, at that point, probably the only conclusion to this.
Wow. So for nearly 2 years, you're going through just surgery after surgery, treatment after treatment, not being able to be with your brothers in blue and just kind of on the sideline. And I think that type of injury and recovery would have sent most people into retirement. But here we are 2 years later, and you're leading 2 departments essentially, and still right where you belong. Tell us a little bit about the journey back.
So yeah, so after my amputation, you know, obviously it takes some time for your body to heal and for you to get back into a prosthetic and back to where you're walking and able to be more normal on a day-to-day basis. And in September of 22, my doctor released me to go back to full duty without restrictions. So I came back, I ran our PT course, did my shooting qualifications, and got back to work. And then shortly after me coming back is when I was promoted to lieutenant. And you know, while it's not always easy, it's better than not walking. You know, it was definitely a journey, a lot of physical therapy, both before and after the amputation. It's a lot of going to Charlotte and meeting my prosthetics guys and making sure my leg fits right and getting new hardware and new sockets and new feet and everything else. But you know, life doesn't stop, and you can't let mild bumps in the road stop you.
Wow. Well, just the mindset you have is truly remarkable, and I know that physically you've been through a lot. Mentally, it's a lot too, but you've clearly figured out how to have the right mindset, and that ultimately is, I think, what drives you to be back where you are now. During that process where I think you were ultimately able to see this person that caused this injury to be sentenced, I think, to 21 years in prison. Is that right?
That's correct.
And so we talk a lot about justice, and I believe you were in courtroom that day surrounded by fellow officers that were able to kind of witness that come to fruition. Can you tell us a little bit about what that moment meant to you and how you view that as being justice for what you've gone through?
Yeah, so, you know, the day I broke my leg, he ended up getting caught. We had a couple warrants for him then. They ended up charging him with resisting arrest with injury for my injuries that day. He had gotten out, did some more bad stuff, gotten arrested again. And when it finally went to trial, he was, you know, he pled guilty, which was, you know, convenient for us. and the judge sentenced him to the full 20 years for the crime the other crime, and then tacked on an additional year, which is the maximum for the resisting arrest with injury cause that was a result of me breaking my leg. And while 1 year added to his sentence is not, I mean, he was already going to be in there for 20 years, so what's another year? But it's nice to know that the judge was there. The judge heard from, I was not able to speak that day. It was a little emotional for me.
Absolutely.
But my wife and I had some friends that spoke, and that he understood that and really took that into the sentencing aspect of it.
And having worked with a judge for a year, the late Judge Hayes, I've seen, time and time again, it's very rare for a judge to go, on that end of the spectrum. A lot of times there's compromise or splitting the difference, and clearly that they wanted to send a message, that and to ultimately, look after you and what you had been through to the fullest extent possible within, what they have to work with. So I know you mentioned your family, and I know you're your husband and a father of 2 daughters as well, I think. I think you've been quite an exemplary role model for them in terms of showing what resilience and service truly looks like, and I'm sure that's a big part of who you are and who they know you as now.
Yeah, so obviously everybody's going to have speed bumps in life. Some of them are bigger than others. For me, I hope this is the biggest one I have to deal with, and I hope my girls don't ever have to deal with anything as quite as tremendous as this, but if they do, they know they can get through it.
Absolutely. You've laid a great roadmap on how to do that. And, Lieutenant Clark, I can't thank you enough for your service, for sharing your story with us here today. I can't imagine a better role model for new officers to get to see and hear from than listening to your story. You're an example and somebody we all look up to quite a lot, and this community is so lucky to have you be a part of it and continue to serve it. So thanks for joining us today, and we're grateful for all that you do to protect and inspire everybody here in York County.
Thanks, sir.
All righty. Well, thank you. That's another episode of Local Justice. Thanks so much to Lieutenant Clark for joining us and sharing his inspirational story. We'll see you next time. Take care and stay safe out there.
As soon as I contacted Elrod Pope, they handled everything. Without Elrod Pope's help, I'd have been paying hospital bills for years to come. Elrod Pope just took the stress and they put it on their table and took it off mine.
Coming to Elrod Pope, I didn't have to worry about anything. Everything was taken care of. It put me in a real calm state because I had someone on my side. I knew that I was in the right hands. It felt great.
Kidney disease is becoming more and more prevalent, especially with diabetes and hypertension. My training with kidney disease helps me to talk to patients and guide them through the steps that they can take, the changes that they can make into their lifestyles. And we have a dedicated team of providers, including dietitians and pharmacists that we work with to educate patients towards achieving that.
We know the type. You like to start early, finish late, make lemon squares, and make payments to the college fund from anywhere in the house. We know you rely on Comporium for the things you rely on most, like a view of the backyard. That's just a bunny, and hundreds of channels to watch, whenever you want. So you may think of us as just your internet company, but we're more like the I didn't know they could do all that company. Comporium, always ready.
From my first watch I purchased as a teenager, which still runs today, to the diamond ring I surprised my wife with, which she still talks about today. A gift from Norman Hagee is as good as it gets. Whether it's elegant timepieces by Bulova, Caravel, and Bel Air, or ornamental ironwork-inspired Southern Gates collection, or dazzling fine jewelry. A gift from Hagee is backed by over 60 years of family-owned and operated experience. Norman Hagee Jewelers, for gifts as good as it gets.
For over 7 decades, the YMCA of Upper Palmetto has been dedicated to empowering our community. Every day, we're committed to ensuring that every individual, regardless of circumstance, has the chance to thrive. From life-changing initiatives like the First Thursdays Club to unique health programs and vital water safety education, we're here to uplift, inspire, and transform lives. For more on how you can get involved in all we do at YMCA of Upper Palmetto, visit our website or stop by one of our 12 locations.
We can